We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Mike, I've been thinking a lot about the summer. 2-for-1 drafts probably drops to one episode per week. It's going to be...
How can you not?
It's going to be just an absolutely insane summer. People are going to be vaccinated. Ohioans can get vaccinated if you're 16 plus years old. By March 29th, we're going to get vaccines rolling. Bars are going to open up. It's going to be quite the treat. And I'm thinking about 2-for-1 drafts. The guests, man. Mm-hmm. We got to get some really good guests on. You're going to push for freaking Brady Quinn to offer his analysis on the 2022 quarterback class. I don't want that.
He'll come hang.
I don't want Brady Quinn's analysis, half-assed analysis on just the Notre Dame guys. Okay, what
Brady
I want
puts in the work. Don't question Brady Quinn's work ethic.
In June.
Okay.
What I want is I want DJ Uiagalelei's dad. We got to lock that up for the summer.
Does.
Dave, producer Dave, we got to lock that up for the summer.
He's a hot commodity right now.
We're gonna get his ass.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about the St. Brown's dads. No, St. Brown's dad.
Thinking about a lot of guys' dads.
I want dads on the pod.
Yeah.
I want dads on the pod, but
whose dad should we get on the pod?
Exactly. So I'm opening it up to the listeners.
Yeah.
What guests should we get? I want fun guests. I want who backed up Trevor Lawrence in high school? I want him on. I want his dad, maybe. I don't know. I think we need fun guests on. Definitely send in. My Twitter DMs are open. Drop it in the YouTube comments. Who the hell should we get on the pod in the summer? I want fun guests only.
Joe Burrow's dad.
Joe Burrow's dad.
Coach.
Dude, Gardner Minshew's dad. He had some fame a little bit.
You get Mel Kiper. Although I think he goes into hibernation over the summer, maybe. You don't see him.
Kiper's dad?
Just Kiper.
You had a story you wanted to rip off the top.
Oh, yeah. This one, it's not great. I probably shouldn't tell it, but I'm going to tell it.
I kind of like the story.
This is another dating story, getting deeper into the psyche here. Because people were saying... Last time I told them that they feel bad for me about my dating life not working out.
I do too.
It's no, I bring this shit on myself. I do these dumb things that then cost me down the line. And this is one of those. If you guys will recall, this was last summer. My ex-girlfriend beat me up or whatever. You guys remember when I had the black eye on the podcast?
That right.
Was that. And so this was the first girl I started talking to after all of that madness. Things are going well. And about a month or so in, so to preface this, after all that madness happened with my ex-girlfriend, I get tested for an STD, whatever. I grew up on calling it STDs. And it's jogged my memory because of the Daniel Jeremiah thing, the STI thing last
Strength, toughness, intensity?
No, it was strength, toughness, and instincts.
Oh,
instincts. That's the real STI. That's the STI
I've got.
Yeah, that's the STI we've
Test me for that.
Spades here. So I got tested, negative. Clean, never had one. Money. So, Jesus.
Cash.
So I'm talking to this girl, and it's going well, but then I start to have this burning sensation while I pee, and it's going on for about 2 weeks, and I haven't told anybody, but it's legitimately every time I go to the bathroom, I'm saying "ow" out loud. I'm like, man. Ow, ow, ow.
Yikes!
I tell my dad, obviously, at some point, he's a doctor. He's like, you have to go to the hospital. That's not no one has just a burning sensation when you pee without something being wrong that you need to fix. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that actually makes sense. People just don't have burning piss. And so I go to the doctor, and this was the exact same point. The reason I went to the doctor is because that's when I also got pink eye.
Oh,
if you'll recall on the podcast last summer.
Black eye, pink eye.
Black eye, then pink eye, burning sensation while I peed. It was a bad summer for me, for you boy. And so I go there, go to the doctor. He's like, you most likely have chlamydia. And I'm like, really? I don't think so. That seems really far-fetched.
You're educated.
He's like, have you had sex? I'm like, okay, yeah, I have. But really only one person. Mm-hmm. It only was one person. So I did not think that was a possibility. But he's like, that explains the pink eye. That explains the burning sensation while you pee. He convinced me so much there that he gives me the shot for chlamydia, zithmycin shot. Gives me a shot, convinces me to the point where I leave the hospital and test for UTIs. The UTI tests all came back negative. I leave the hospital and I'm like, I have to tell this girl, call her up from the parking lot of the hospital like the dumbest man alive and say to her, this is on a Friday night. I'm like, and she's like at dinner. And I'm like, hey, I really have something to tell you.
This is where you go wrong, by the way.
This is where I went wrong. I said, I really have something to tell you. I just went to the doctor. He thinks I have chlamydia. I haven't had sex with anyone else since I got tested last, but you, so... And then she's like, what are you saying? And I'm like, I think you probably gave me chlamydia.
The fact that you go out of your way to blame her off the bat is ridiculous.
That was bad. That was on me. I
like,
regret
oh, man,
that aspect.
Like, what happened? Maybe it was me.
And she
I don't
just
know.
immediately hangs up the phone. And I'm just like...
As she should.
I'm like, I think I played that wrong in my head, but I didn't know for sure. And then when she stopped talking to me for a while after that, I realized I'd played that one wrong. Mm-hmm. And then the kicker, I tested negative for chlamydia. I didn't have it.
Let's talk about the doctor first.
I know. The doctor hung me out to fucking dry there,
I know.
man.
The doctor, maybe the big... It's like, yeah, you have chlamydia. Let me give you the shot. It's like, whoa. Let's get some checks and balances here in Cincinnati. That is kind of egregious, man. And we talked about dads. So we could bring your dad on, my dad on the pod, maybe that doctor's dad. What's the girl's name? Bring her dad on? I don't know. Does her dad know about this? We could break that story to him on the podcast. All right, let's get into the freaking mailbag here. Enough about people's dads. Enough about the clap, etc. All right, scrolling down here, I recently numbered all of the mailbag questions that we do have, and man, we have a lot. We're backed up, I think, over 100 mailbag questions. That shows all the support we're getting on 2-for-1 drafts. You love to see that. We're going to continue to answer these through free agency, through the draft, kind of get to as many as we can. I think we're going to get through them. We're going to get through them eventually. We might go 5 days a week. Like, fuck. I mean, if Quinn can avoid getting COVID.
We'll have a marathon mailbag 24-hour live stream.
Marathon mailbag. I like that. Bring the doctor, all that. All right, number one here. This is from Yo-Yo.
It's a prescient one.
This is a prescient one. This is from Yo-Yo Bro on the Pittsburgh prospects. What are your thoughts on Paris Ford and Jalen Twyman from Pitt? Paris is born and raised here, and I think he has the most potential of any safety in the draft.
Oh, no. So you had the
I have
Pittsburgh Pro Day.
Pittsburgh
Pro Day was yesterday. Would you like to read off Paris Ford and Jalen
to start,
numbers?
on a positive note, Jalen Twyman put up 40 reps on the bench, which I'm pretty sure is like 99th percentile among defensive tackles. That was huge. That was the first number that was coming out of Pitt. Then Jim Nagy, who I would call a very trusted source when working with NFL scouts and getting pro day times and those things, he tweets out these numbers. For Paris Ford, 4.9 40-yard dash, first percentile at 197 pounds. Yeah. That's safety.
Yeah.
29-inch vertical, first percentile. 9.2 broad, second percentile. 4.53 short shuttle, second percentile. And then I think this might be the worst. 7.65 3-cone for Paris Ford, first percentile. Then going to Twyman, obviously had the 40 reps on the bench. I don't know if he was only benching in the offseason, but 5.51 40-yard dash, literally 0th percentile. 8.8 broad, second percentile. And then 8 second 3-cone, 8.00 3-cone, first percentile. Those two guys, and I had someone reach out recently and say, man, like the fact that they let their agents, like the agents let them go, you know, like that they knew they were going to put up some times like these and they still let them run it was rough, because they're hanging them out to dry right now, because those numbers are circling. Those guys are coming off boards for some teams.
Yeah, that's undraftable numbers. I am not that athletic. I think I'm still more athletic than Paris Ford. I think I could go out and beat those numbers right now. The beat Paris Ford challenge should start on like TikTok or something, where you just have to beat. Those are the worst numbers I've ever seen from a draft prospect at safety. That is, like I said, that's undrafted. You can't draft a guy like that. And I blame their agents.
Yeah, I do too.
You can't let those guys work out.
I agree.
They've done these drills before. And if
this is
they
not the first 40-yard dash that Jalen Twyman has run. I fucking hope.
Yeah. And if it is, then I still blame the agents. You know, like they should not be putting anything. You have a hamstring that you pulled a couple weeks ago and you don't test. Sorry.
Here's the take.
That's what you do.
Here's the take. Jalen Twyman goes to that pro day, doesn't decide to do any of the drills for whatever reason. Fucking hamstring, make something up, and only puts up 40 reps on the bench. He moves up draft boards.
Yeah.
He literally moves up draft boards. There will be media, analysts, etc. Like, wait a second. Jalen Twyman opted out of the 2020 season. Yeah. Obviously been working out a ton in the in his prep. 40 reps on the bench, man, really like that. I'm going to get on board with Jalen Twyman, maybe move him up a few spots.
Exactly. But I will say, okay, so I wrote in the draft guide here, he is doesn't have high-level athleticism or length to make up for his size deficiencies. He is an undersized, unathletic defensive tackle. That's not a good combination when profiling to the NFL, so we were low on him before. Paris Ford, I kind of liked his instincts for the position, the way he plays the game. Like, he's an aggressive safety, but that, again, I will let pro day numbers, when they are that bad, impact my opinion on someone. And I don't think that's, like I said, those are really draftable numbers. Those are awful.
All right, jumping now. We had 2 PFF full-time employees want to get in on the mailbag, and those guys move atop the queue. I'm sorry. We had to get on the Pittsburgh Pro Day stuff first, but now Andrew Russell, who works on the draft guide, by the way.
Yeah.
Andrew Russell is
big
amazing.
Bengals fan.
Big Bengals fan. Same with Quinn, and also does fantastic work for the draft guide. The draft guide doesn't happen without Andrew Russell. Full stop. Obviously, Mike Renner gets a lot of the praise, but Andrew Russell is an absolute stud in that regard. His question was, who's a prospect that you swore would be good but wasn't?
There's a lot that I thought would be like solid NFL players, but I swore that Henry Anderson, coming out of Stanford, would not just be like a good I thought he was going to be not the next J.J. Watt, but I thought he was going to be like Pro Bowl type defensive tackle perennially. Like, I just thought he would be much more of an impact pass rusher than he has been, because he was ridiculously good at Stanford. His athletic testing was through. Like, he was a very good athlete testing wise coming out of Stanford back in 2015, and just he's kind of been a guy. And I just did not see that being the case after watching him on tape. So sadly, that's who I'll say.
I was going to say, Hamp Cheevers had some highlight reel plays at Boston College where I was like, you know what, this guy's going to be damn good. But there was eventually a time where I was like, you know what, you talked to me a lot about him. I think I learned a lot from you about scouting cornerbacks. And I was like, you know what, actually, he's probably not going to be good. Trying to think of some other ones. I really liked Paul Dawson out of TCU a few years ago. I know he was a big PFF guy as well. I'm kind of scrolling through like previous draft boards and finding names. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be a stud. I love Darius Geis out of LSU. That was when I still felt like running backs had value. I thought Darius Geis was going to be very good. Looking through some of my notes here, who I had. Man, I mean, I thought Royce Freeman too. Thinking about running backs, I thought Royce Freeman was going to be better.
I didn't like Royce Freeman at all coming out. Yeah, but
I thought Jakeem Griffin was going to be better. I thought Joe Osman was going to be a lot better.
Oh yeah,
man. But here we are. Oh, I really like Dante Pettis too. I thought Dante Pettis was going to be good.
Dante Pettis had a lot of fans.
Yeah,
but then he's really just, I don't know. He couldn't even see the field. Yeah, one of those guys where it's like, why can't? Sometimes you wonder why, if that's not necessarily on field when it's a guy
off-field.
who,
definitely off field. We've talked about development a lot on this pod. I definitely think some of that is off field. All right, this is from John Macri, who's a PFF fantasy analyst. He had a 2-for-1 question. Let me see. What are your thoughts on Kentucky linebacker Jamin Davis? 85th prospect on the PFF big board, 7th ranked linebacker, but he is getting first round hype from a lot of people. Do you think he's going to come up boards here? Maybe after a Kentucky Pro Day he comes up. What do you think of Jamin Davis?
Next question is also about Jamin Davis. Lee Trailer here asked, what are your thoughts on Kentucky linebacker Jamin Davis, and how would he fit in Dan Quinn's defense in Dallas? And we've also actually, I think we answered about a Jamin Davis question about 2 months ago. So listen to the earlier pods, John Macri, before you ask your question. I'm kidding. But he's long, athletic. Like we said, in that Kentucky scheme, wasn't asked to do a lot in coverage, but I think you could see him profiling to a better coverage player in the NFL with his level of athleticism. I love the way he attacks against the run. First round's rich for me, but I think he is solidly a day 2 linebacker. He has a very reminiscent skill set of a Devondre Campbell when he was coming out of Minnesota. Obviously went to Atlanta. So that should answer your question about would he fit in Dan Quinn's scheme in Dallas. That would be a bingo.
Compare Jamin Davis's coverage ability or coverage potential in the NFL to Micah Parsons.
Ooh. I think Micah Parsons is going to be a better tackler. I think after that, they both were similarly limited in what they're asked to do in both Penn State and Kentucky. I do think Parsons is a freakier athlete, like even just like getting up to speed. But I think Jamin might be a little smoother. I don't know. I do think Parsons is still the better coverage player. I think that's obviously the question mark with him, but I still think he's going to be very good in that regard.
All right, from Anonymous 6969. This pod does it all. It can evaluate talent, measurables, and use data to have the most informed decision making. What do you guys think about factoring in the human element of teams in terms of chemistry, motivation, coachability, leaders versus followers, and all all of the not quantitative data, so qualitative data that matters in franchise setting. We totally understand with the analytical focus that you can't factor that in, but do you ever try to consider that, or should the goal be near Moneyball style in terms of team building? I'll start there.
This is you.
Right up my alley. You
have to interview the guys.
I do think it matters a lot more than people give it credit for. Yeah. I think there's a reason why NFL teams and evaluators talk about the interview process at the combine being the most important. And it's not, I don't think you're necessarily looking for chemistry as much, or I think coachability is really important. I think motivation is very important, but you're also looking at, I think coachability speaks to a lot of things, like, your work ethic off the football field, how capable are you of studying a playbook and those different things. I do think that matters. And I think you have to factor that in. And when you see guys bust, when you see guys that have this freaky athleticism but never pan out in the NFL, a lot of the times it is some of that off-field stuff that you can really only pick up in interviews, and not necessarily always interviews. Like, you can have guys that interview really well, get propped up by agents, but then find out later down the road that they aren't that same type of player. I mean, Jamarcus Russell was drafted number 1 overall and literally didn't even watch film with the Oakland Raiders. That is a problem. And I think you don't necessarily maybe find that out in an interview with Jamarcus Russell, but you find it out after a week. You find it out after 2 weeks. You hear Kirk Morrison say 2 weeks in or 3 weeks in, and Jamarcus Russell working with the Raiders, they kind of knew he wasn't the guy. And then obviously tried to make it work and all that stuff. But you find that out after a couple weeks, and I think that's hard to find out in the interview.
Yeah, I think it's similar to kind of what we do in terms of you want to identify outliers on either end of the spectrum.
Yes.
Guys who are really unmotivated or really bad personality-wise, would be bad character fits, or guys who are like tremendously motivated, who you think like they're going to do whatever it takes, and maybe that's like your special teamers or whatever, but like the great locker room guys. Now it shouldn't impact you that much between those two, but I do think that the outliers on either end of the spectrum still have value. Our problem, PFF, outside looking in, we don't have that kind of access.
No.
We really can't know, even the interviews we do. That's why I joke about them swaying you. It's still such a limited glimpse and snapshot of these guys that we're not getting the full picture on.
I feel like, though, you can identify some outliers on the positive end with the interviews that I do.
Okay.
On the negative end, it's tough because I'm not asking tough questions. Their agents aren't asking me to ask tough questions. It's creating content and those things. But on the positive end, you look at the interview I did with Rashad Weaver. You come out of that saying, oh, wow, this guy of the guys I have talked to.
He's got to put in the work.
Yeah, he's got to put in the work, very prepared, what he does on film and those things. I recently talked to one of your guys, Trey Brown of Oklahoma. That's another guy where I came out of that interview, I was like, holy shit, this guy really gets it, really understands. I think something that stands out for me in an interview is when players speak to their weaknesses. Players will speak to their weaknesses and understand where they can get better, have that self-awareness to be like, hey, Trey Brown, small. Trey Brown is small. He's like, I'm going to have to win with physicality up front. I have to be able to play in the slot. I have to be able to play special teams. I understand it. There's other guys where you're like, yeah, I'm small, but I can win on the outside. It's like, okay, let's have some self-awareness here. How many wide receivers are 5'10", 175 and actually play on the outside? 0. You need to be better in the slot. Have that self-awareness. I think self-awareness is something that you can pick up.
Caleb Farley was the other one too. That guy has the juice. Like, Farley, you could just tell when he was talking, like, that guy's going to be he's going to be able to back up his athleticism.
Absolutely. He's also a big PFF guy. Farley loves PFF. All right. Now jumping to D. Bo's lost hands. Dwayne Bo's lost hands, I think. That's a good one. Love the pod. Is Austin mom single? I love a woman with an edge. She recently got married, actually. So, but I mean, I don't think that's ever held her back. The Chiefs need a tone setter for their offensive line. Fisher and Schwartz are both technique guys and both possibly won't be ready. Yeah, they just got cut. Gone. Who can KC get at 31? That's an absolute dog at any line spot. I love absolute dog, by the way. I need dogs. All dogs. I want a guy who wants to smash other guys. I like that too. I honestly do. I think absolute dog. You want to be brutal along the offensive line. Who do you think is a guy?
I love that they got Kyle Long. That describes him. That's how he played the game when he was with the Bears, when he was with Oregon. Kevin Jenkins, though, if we're talking about dogs at the tackle position, that's who you want in this class. I think he could fall to the Oklahoma State offensive tackle. And if you're also talking about dogs, Landon Dickerson got a little dog in him. If you're still in need of a center by that time.
I also think Darisaw has a little dog in him.
Yeah, guys who will be available at 31, though, it ain't going to happen.
Fair enough. I think Kevin Jenkins at 31 is good.
Dickerson wears 69 too. You got to be a dog to wear 69.
Oh yeah.
There's like a handful of like plays where Dickerson, or not plays, but like videos of Dickerson when he was hurt at Alabama, like walking up and down the sideline like a monster, like looking for someone to hurt. I don't know what it was, but I think Dickerson again. I don't think he goes day one.
Torn ACL.
Some people have him in like first-round mocks. I don't think he ultimately goes day one.
I don't see how you can justify that as a head coach, unless you're the Chiefs, like that's the piece you think. But a guy who's torn the same ACL twice, who plays one of the lesser valuable positions in the NFL, is just like, why take that risk?
I mean, the Chiefs, though, to talk about their interior offensive line, they just recently signed really Kyle Long. Just recently signed Joe Tui to the highest paid contract for any guard. And apparently the rumors are that they made an offer back to Austin Ryder. Like, they're really shoring up that interior offensive line, but still have obviously obvious holes at offensive tackle. All right, this is from Chris Mike 23 about Texas A&M. Which former TAMU quarterback turned transfer would you have liked to see play this past season's team? And would they have made a run in the college football playoff? I'll never forgive Kevin Sumlin for driving these quarterbacks away. Kyler Murray, Kenny Hill, Kyle Allen, Tate Martell.
I'll go with Tate Martell because if they had Kyler Murray, they'd obviously be in the college football playoff, and I didn't want that. I wanted Notre Dame to be in the college football playoff, so I'm going to go with Tate Martell. That guy played wide receiver for them. They would have been no different.
Wow, so that's rude, man. But obviously,
he asked me who I wanted.
Yeah,
that's who I wanted. That's true. I'm not a Texas A&M Aggies fan.
I would pick Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray would have lit it on fire at Texas A&M. That would have been sick.
And also Hayes King is shit. I mean, we haven't even seen it. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Fair
Sorry,
enough.
buddy.
Fair
that guy, we scout. It's only so much time in the day.
It's true. That's why in the summer, man, we're doing fun interviews only.
Yeah, maybe in the fall I'll get you.
All right, Ryan Griffin, 82. I interned at Navy in 2019. What were your guys' thoughts on Malcolm Perry going into the 2020 draft? And do you think he can stick on the Finns roster?
It's hashtag fun to watch. That's what he is.
Absolutely.
But 5'9", 175 is not. So people saying they changed to running back. I think it's where he's changed. Like, that's not still running back size. Like, that's a slot receiver or a slot cornerback.
I'm 5'9", 175.
That's where you're playing. That's where you're playing on an NFL football field. There's not a lot of other, like, if you are a running back, you are a gadget running back. You're not pass protecting.
I've recently dropped to under 170 though, I will say. And I think Malcolm Perry's probably a little bit more cut than I am, but I definitely think at 175 pounds, 5'9", trying to run at running back would be tough.
Yes. And so I do think maybe that's, like, he's a multifaceted athlete. That's a talented human being. I wouldn't put it past him to develop into an actual receiver at some point. But I do think they are listing him at running back right now. So.
All right, this is from Dylan Singer. If the Giants get a big-name receiver in free agency, hasn't happened yet, Kenny Galladay could drop at any point.
No, he's not.
Quinn wants him for the Bengals.
The Bengals rumor.
I saw that video you put out on Twitter replacing the A.J. Green jersey with Galladay.
Yeah, I just want it known that I said the other day that he might go to the Bengals, and you guys are like, no, he's not going to the Bengals. I'll even stitch a clip in.
Kenny Galladay. Where do you think Galladay has the most success if a team does sign him?
That's a good question.
When a team signs him, not if a team signs him.
Bengals.
No, not the Bengals.
He's not coming to the Bengals.
No.
I'm not saying he's going to, but like the interest is there.
So if he goes to the Bengals, what happens? We got to have a bet on this. He goes to the Bengals, you get something.
I'll give you a 30 rack.
Okay. He goes to the Bengals. We celebrate by gifting Quinn a 30 rack. If he doesn't go to the Bengals, though, Quinn, what do we get?
What do you guys want?
Here?
I don't know.
That's what we want.
Fifth
we want a new thing of smelling salts. That's what we want.
We want a new thing of smelling salts, actually.
We're almost out.
Okay, deal.
All right, This is back to Dylan Singer's question. If the Giants get a big-name receiver in free agency, could it hurt to draft an offensive lineman at 11? Go for more weapons and get someone like Jalen Waddle, or go edge and grab Jalen Phillips. At 11 would be a bit rich. Also, in another scenario, do you think the Giants take Pitts at 11? We could trade Ingram in a 2022 second-rounder for Stephon Gilmore. I don't know if Ingram's going to the Pats. I don't know if they want to run that 13 personnel out there in New England now, but I do think Stephon Gilmore should be on the trade block, or at least should be making calls for Stephon Gilmore. I think the Patriots could be looking to move on from him. What is your opinion of what the Giants should do right now, given the moves they made in free agency at 11?
Yeah, as I've made it known, Pitts is not redundant to pretty much any tight end in the NFL. You want him on your roster. So if he is there at 11, great pick. I do think, so as much as these wide receiver and edge classes are deep, like, are you really going to wait to round 2 at a position like edge where they could be cooked by then? You might not have a guy you like, and especially with the Giants, they kind of have a unique skill set they look for in their edge rushers. But even if they sign a wide receiver, even if you get a Kenny Galladay, I think you still want to go offense. You still want to give Daniel Jones that ideal situation to evaluate, but basically just as a franchise to evaluate him. Can he, with a good offensive line, with a good receiving core, lead an offense that can win you a Super Bowl? Because if not, if you get those guys, if you get those pieces around him, that makes your decision easy next offseason.
Absolutely.
You're going somewhere else at the quarterback.
I mean, it's kind of what the Broncos tried to do with Drew Lock, and they're still making excuses for him in some ways. But like Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, obviously, Cortland Sutton got hurt, but like that's what you need to do. With a young quarterback, you need to build around him offensively to see if he can actually put together a top 10, top 5 offense.
Because if you don't have that, it's going to be very difficult for you to win a Super Bowl. You're going to have a lot of shit defensively, and then we've seen
not only a lot of stuff defensively, but like defense has regressed. Like it's very difficult. Look what the San Francisco 49ers had with Jimmy Garoppolo when they went to that Super Bowl. One of the best defenses we've seen really in the last 10, 15 years. The following season, injury regression hits. You lose certain players. Like that it's very hard to be good on defense year over year because so many factors can happen. So many issues can happen. Yes. Coaching, I think, helps. Obviously, Bill Belichick has had a very good defense for a long time and has managed to be one of the better defensive coaches probably in NFL history, if not the best.
He's the best.
But you don't get to keep Bill Belichick all the time either. You lose defensive coordinators to head coaching jobs and all that stuff. So, all right, this is from Austin Gale's mom. Okay, my question is, what should be first-year expectations with Lawrence and Wilson? Should we expect Wilson to be starting right off the gate if he lands in New York? Absolutely.
Yeah. Although I will say, if they keep Darnold, if really there is no market for Darnold for a trade, then have a competition. There's no shame in that. I think that can improve the play of both to really get them both in there and let them go head to head. I don't think that's a bad situation to be in if you're the New York Jets. Trevor Lawrence, you should expect top 12 quarterback play right away. I will say. I would be very surprised if he is not. He's that good.
Yeah.
That's why you're drafting him number 1 overall. It's not because he might be the best quarterback in the NFL someday. He might be, but it's because how good he is right now should be top 12 quarterback in the NFL.
This is from Moose Knuckle 28. I know that recently Robert Saleh, I think it's Saleh. You have to pronounce the emphasis is on the Sa, not the La. It's Saleh. Has run an increasing amount of 4-3 fronts with athletic edge rushers in wide nines. The interior defensive line is one of the only good parts of this Jets team. So it makes sense to draft dudes that complement their current strengths. Jets have Quinnen Williams to penetrate the B gap and some other solid interior defensive linemen to push the pocket. So which edge in this year's draft would be the best fit to capitalize on the dudes they already have there?
So Lawson's kind of your wide 9 now.
Yeah.
And if you want another wide 9 like Azeez Ojulari, Ronnie Perkins are kind of that in that class, but I think you would want the more base end, the guy that can kind of kick inside. The Eric Armstead to your Nick Bosa, shall we say. And I think Carlos Basham's kind of that guy on, I think it would be day 2, second round. If you get him there, that'd be a good complementary piece to a Carl Lawson.
We didn't talk about either Azeez Ojulari's pro day. 34 3/8 arms, 84th percentile, 10.5-inch hands, 95th percentile,
Tough,
81st percentile in wingspan, 94th in broad, 90th in 40-yard dash. That guy put on a show at the Georgia Pro Day. So did the guard, Ben, I'm losing his last name.
Ben Cleveland.
Ben Cleveland. He put on a show as well. Did you see he's listed at 6'6", 364 or some shit? Yeah. That's like 99th percentile on guards. He is a monster, but built like...
Yeah, he's built like the mountain from Game of Thrones.
He really is. That's a great comp. Add that comp to the draft guide if he doesn't have a comp.
I should.
The mountain from Game of Thrones is a great Easter egg.
The mountain played for the Colts, I believe.
Could be a signing for the Raiders.
I think he did. I think it was a Brock Lesnar situation where it didn't really pan out. But I'm like pretty sure he played. I'll have to.
I thought he wasn't even American. The mountain. That's like
he's not. But I mean,
what you're saying? Americans can't play.
Yeah, Margus Hunt plays for the Bengals.
What are you
He's
talking
from
about?
Estonia.
Okay, you're saying non-Americans can't play American football?
That's not what I'm
saying. Sam Monson played football.
Yeah.
So if you're saying the mountain son couldn't play. All right. This is from Keoth S. I'm a Browns fan and know we need help at linebacker. Every mock draft puts one there. But would you rather have someone like Asante Samuel Jr. who can come in and make our secondary have a lot of young, talented depth with Ward, Greedy, Samuel Jr., Delpit, and whatever box safety we get in free agency? They got John Johnson. Nice pick by Keith there. Or would you rather pick a linebacker like Collins or a pass rusher in the first? Can I start?
Yeah.
I don't think you should go linebacker. We talk about positional value a ton. I don't think linebacker at that spot makes a ton of sense for them. And I honestly don't think Asante Samuel Jr. is a great decision there. I'd honestly look at edge. Let's go get another edge defender. Let's pair him up with Myles Garrett. Attack the positional value in this class. There's a ton of really talented edge defenders. You can get an Azeez Ojulari. You can get a Jalen Phillips, maybe Gregory Rousseau. Go get some pass rush help because we just saw Trey Hendrickson, sorry Quinn, get $15 million per year. $15 million per year on the open market. Mm-hmm. if you don't draft valuable pass rushers, if you don't go get these really talented pass rushers in the first round with that 5th-year option, you're going to end up having a needed edge somewhere down the road and paying either a shitload of money for Leonard Floyd, over $60 million per year for him, or even trying to like settle for a Trey Hendrickson at $15 million per year. I do think pass rusher makes sense for the Browns.
I will say the one thing about Zaven Collins, and I agree about pass rusher there, I'd push back on a lot of the off-ball linebackers, but Zaven Collins kind of his own animal from a linebacker perspective of that. You're not going to find his skill set elsewhere. It's like if you want that skill set, if that's something you want in your offense, you're just not going to find it in the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round. So
gotcha. All right. This is from Ryan Cohensberg. Realistically, how long do you think it would take Trey Lance to be ready to start for the Broncos? Would they be better off drafting Mac Jones or trading up for Fields or Wilson? So they're at 9. They're apparently in the mix, or not in the mix, but Deshaun Watson wants to go to the Denver Broncos. I think they could look to make an upgrade at the quarterback position. I'd rather have Trey Lance than Mac Jones. I'd also, if Trey Lance falls to 9, I would do it, but I don't think he's going to. You saw Adam Schefter report that 4 quarterbacks could go in the top 6. What is your opinion? Let's take this question this way. What is your opinion of going up from 9, paying what it takes to get maybe to the Falcons at 4, and getting a Fields or Lance at that spot for the Denver Broncos?
So the thing about Lance is he's not raw in terms of his ability to operate an offense, his ability to like go through reads, his ability to, he was calling his own protections at North Dakota State as a redshirt freshman. So that's not necessarily going to be the problem for him. It's his accuracy and the fact that he's still only 20 years old. Like you're dropping a 20-year-old into the NFL. I guess he'll be 21 by the time he's starting, but that's the bigger thing. Who hasn't played a ton of football? That you would like to kind of just get him in the building and get him up to the speed of the game, jumping from North Dakota State to the NFL. So I don't think it's going to like more than 1 year. Maybe even by the end of his first year, he could be ready to start. I just think that's more the biggest thing. It's not, he has so far to go, so much development to go. I really don't think it's that steep of a sort of curve for him and what he'll be asked to do at the NFL level.
This is from Larballs. Do you need a degree to work at PFF, or can someone who works hard and versatile and teachable have a stable career with the company? I'll start. I've hired a lot of people at PFF in the role that I have. The last thing I look for is a degree. The last thing. And it's the bottom of the resume for a reason. The number one thing you need to work at PFF are skills that apply to the job you're applying for. If you're applying to be a video editor, take Quinn's job, you better know the Adobe Suite.
Portfolio.
You better have clips. You better have examples of videos that you've worked on. I don't care if you got a video editing degree from fucking Northwestern. Let me see a video you've done. I'd like to see that. Is it good? No, it's not. All right, I'll see you later. Thanks for the degree, though. I'm glad you paid for that, or your parents did, whatever. I don't think degrees matter as much as skill sets. So I do think when you're applying for a job at PFF, depending on what that job is, bring skill sets to the table. Put skill sets on your resume. I did a resume workshop with University of Cincinnati, San Diego State, and Colorado recently, trying to do more volunteer work for colleges. And the number one thing I told people was, on your resumes, put skills. If I'm hiring a video editor, I need to see Adobe. I'll Command F on a resume, Adobe. And if it's not there, I'll see you later. Have a good one. If you haven't worked in Adobe, work in it tonight. Start tonight. If you're looking for a video editor or a graphic design position, whatever. Same with have you worked in WordPress? Have you edited before? How much time have you spent editing? Could be your own fucking site. As long as you've done something, I'm interested.
Yeah, I did not get hired at PFF because I went to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Now, no regrets about going to Notre Dame. But I got hired because I cheated on my thing, the
trial
participation trial.
Yeah. I didn't get hired for my liberal studies degree from San Diego State. So I minored in journalism, but still. All right, this is from Mr. D-Man 5000. 2 questions. Who are your favorite left tackle prospects for the Colts? Who are your favorite edge prospects for the Colts?
The next one's Colts question too.
Oh, okay. This is from Blackout 117. That's sounds like a weekend plan. I know Mike low-key loves offensive line tape.
Hell yeah.
You guys have said this year is a deep offensive line class. I'm a Colts fan, so which of the offensive tackles this year do you think best fits our scheme?
I think Christian Darrisaw is your pipe dream there. That guy next to Quentin Nelson, you would love to see that. Love to see that double team combo. But again, pipe dream to fall at 21. You got teams like the Washington football team, Chicago Bears, both need tackles, both right in front of you. And he's going to be the best tackle available after, Slater and Sewell go top 12 or so. So I think that's a pipe dream. I will say Chris Ballard, I don't think this old dog's learning new tricks. I think he's going to trade back.
Especially in this tackle class?
I just think he will. I think he's going to trade back. And if you trade back, I would love to see Walker Little then. That's who I would love to see next to Quentin Nelson at left tackle. If you're in the back end of the first, maybe early second, I don't know how far you're going to go back, but that's who I would love to see for that scheme. And then edge prospects for the Colts.
Aziz. He's got some long-ass arms.
I do like Aziz. I would love, I think Jalen Phillips to replace Justin Houston. That would be where I'd go. Because again, you're a team that's kind of in a window where you're not really worried about whether those concussions happen if he gets a few more in 4 years. It's like, nah, he was good for us now. That's what you want.
Fair enough. I think I had this take when we were talking about the Las Vegas Raiders, who still have needs along the offensive line. If you are looking to fill holes along the offensive line in the draft, I do think it's a very good position to trade back. Because after Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater come off the board, Darisaw obviously is a very good offensive tackle prospect, the clear number 3. But after that, I do think there's a deviation there's a jumble of guys, and I think you're going to see a lot of different evaluations for the rest of the tackles in this class. All right, this is from Jeff MCC. In my best guess, San Francisco either has to go offensive line and secondary in this draft to build around Jimmy, or cut/trade him and retool their next guy. What's the best path forward as far as QB and draft picks? Gamble on Trask or Newman a bit later? I'm going to start. No. Interested to hear your best path forward. I'm going to start there. I do think their best case scenario is getting Deshaun Watson. Second best case scenario is getting aggressive and moving up for a quarterback, trying to get to number 4. I really like the Atlanta Falcons as a trade up spot now. Or Miami Dolphins if they're interested. But I think the Miami Dolphins could lock into a Sewell or a Chase at 3 and just stay put. But if the Atlanta Falcons, that Matt Ryan restructure was big for future mock drafts. They are on the books with Matt Ryan for at least 2 years.
2 more years.
At least. And they could even go into 2023 with Matt Ryan. So you're not going to draft, even if you like Trey Lance or Justin Fields, it doesn't make a ton of sense to do that when you know he's not even going to see the field for at least 2 seasons. And it's going to be very difficult to trade Matt Ryan, all that stuff. I think going up and trying to get the Atlanta Falcons number 4 overall pick and getting a quarterback, replacing Jimmy Garoppolo, is the San Francisco 49ers' best path forward.
Yes, I've come on board to even if it's just Mac Jones, that's where I'd go off of the San Francisco 49ers. I'm just not going to roll into goddamn 2021 with Jimmy Garoppolo making over $20 million as my quarterback. There's no fucking chance I would do that if I'm the GM for the
And I think there might be a market for Jimmy G. The Bears are going to start Andy Dalton next year. There might be a market for Jimmy Garoppolo.
I got bad news for you. They're going to start Andy Dalton next year.
That is bad news. Absolutely bad news. All right. This is from Nicky's Furt. Is that a play on words? Nixie Furt? I don't know. These guys are getting after me here. Before the college season, the cool thing to do was say that Fields was QB2. During and after the season, the cool take was saying Wilson was QB2. Now I'm starting to see it swing around to Fields. As a Jets fan, can you just tell me what to think?
The cool thing to do is to formulate your own opinion based off of watching a guy play football. Wow. That's the cool thing to do.
Wow.
And then be open to
never listen to our podcast
and be
again.
open to differing viewpoints and new info. That's the cool thing to do. That's what all the cool kids are doing. That's what
we say this a lot. We say this a lot, but don't be overconfident in your evaluation. I think look at Wilson, look at Fields, to other people's opinions. If I'm in the Jets front office, look at other people's opinions, see how he'd fit in your offense, talk to your offense coordinator, all those things, and get the guy that best fits your team. Because I think Fields and Wilson are close enough to where you could see Fields go ahead of Wilson.
Yes, you could, but I do think Wilson's. They're gonna see a guy. Now here's a guy to quote Chris Collinsworth.
Love that.
Now here's a guy that ran a similar scheme in the play action stuff, in the boot action, the outside zone heavy that they did at BYU that they're going to do with Michael Fleur. It's a lot of the same stuff, and people like familiarity. There's a reason why the Patriots assign all the Dolphins players and the Dolphins assign all the Patriots players. People know what they know, and they're comfortable with that. You see a guy running what you're going to be running next year, you feel comfortable with that. And so I think that's why people are saying, oh, yeah, Fields or Wilson to the Jets.
Some news to break here. Patrick Chung has officially announced his retirement, and it looks like Philip Lindsay is moving on from the Denver Broncos. And I only wanted to bring this up because I have a take.
These are breaking news stories that you had to
I have to say this. Day 3, undrafted free agent running backs that have success get used worse than unpaid interns, man. Because Philip Lindsay runs for back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. They pump the rock to him and don't even reward him with a second contract. That is absolutely ridiculous. And I think, again, pays to the narrative that, you don't need to invest highly at the position. You can get very productive players and have no long-term commitment to them. I really do think that the NFL needs to restructure rookie contracts.
This is just a restricted. This is an RFA contract too. He's not. He wouldn't even be. He's only 3 years in.
Yeah.
He's not this is just tendering him, which is absurd.
Yeah. You hate to see it. All right. Either way, let's jump now to the next question. Oh, he had a second one. Who are the best edge rushers in the class that would fit Robert Salah? I don't know if I said that right. Salah. Defense that would likely be available at 23 or 24.
So again, I do think you in that 49ers defense, you got Carl Lawson on one side, and I think you want like a base type of end on the other side across from him. Going first round, I think those guys are Kwity Paye and Jalen Phillips. Those are your guys who are they can go head up on a tackle and a pinch if you need them to in this class. Maybe Gregory Rousseau, but I still worry about him playing out on the edge full time. I still have question marks about that.
All right, from fullbacks for the win. My question is, the 49ers seem interested in adding wide receiver depth with the immediate need being a starting slot receiver. Bonus if they can improve our return game or if they can play outside as injury insurance for Debo or Ayuk. Assuming the 49ers address the immediate needs in the first 2 rounds, which names stick out to you around the 3rd or 4th round picks? 102 to 117 overall. My leading candidates are Amari Rodgers, Jalen Darden, Shi Smith, but I'd love to hear names that you think would make sense in Shanahan's offense.
So 49ers got like a little bit of a type going on at the wide receiver position. They like the yak guys. They got Debo, they got Ayuk, guys who are dynamic with the ball in their hand, and obviously Jalen Hurd, who didn't love the pick at a time, hasn't been great for them comparatively, but there's a reason that the good yak guys go early. It's because you can identify the good yak guys fairly easily. But I think, so guys who would fit that mold a little later on, Amari Rodgers is a good shout out. I think they could be in the market for a little bit bigger yak guys with what they have already on that roster. Someone like a Sage Surratt, someone like a Seth Williams. Sage Surratt from Wake Forest, Seth Williams being from Auburn. Those 2 guys would be intriguing. I'll also throw in if they want a speed threat, because Ayuk, Debo, 4 or 5 guys. They are not deep speed threats. If they want something like that in that offense, maybe like an Amir Smith-Marset, who's also fairly dynamic after the catch himself.
All righty. Moving to the white Michael Jordan. Why do you think Jeffrey Okudah's rookie season was so disappointing? Was it injury-related, scheme-related, or was he overdrafted? Seemed like as close to a can't-miss cornerback prospect as you could get.
I think there's 2 things here. One, Matt Patricia. Kind of just throw that out the window. Like, name a defensive player who looked at their best in that Lions defense the past 4 years.
I can't.
Exactly. It was bad.
Not even Trey Flowers.
When you're not putting a guy in a good position or a position to succeed, you're going to have results like that. So that's a big part of it. I think another one that kind of got swept under the rug was just the gauntlet of wide receivers he was facing. I think he had like Devontae Adams twice, DeAndre Hopkins, and he was like going one-on-one against those guys right out of the gate as a rookie. That's eye-opening. And yeah, he got torched, but he didn't get much. Like I said, he was put in bad situations against elite NFL talent right out the gate. So I'll kind of forgive him for looking like ass cheeks.
Jesus. Let's stop. He had a second question. This is from also the white Michael Jordan. Let's stop this defense at 7 nonsense. The Lions need to draft a quarterback. Goff isn't the answer. We can't let him play the Lions into the 10-20 no man's land. I like that people are bringing that up a lot. Quarterback purgatory is real. Drafting in 10 to 20 sucks. Look at the Washington football team. They're going to put it together with Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Bears would have Andy Dalton as their starter. The Patriots could play themselves into that situation. Yeah. Do you think Lance or Fields will be there at 7, or who would be better in Anthony Lynn's offense? Saying Anthony Lynn's offense hurt. But go ahead.
I'm not sure you want to draft just for Anthony Lynn's offense. I'll just say that.
Fair.
Out the gate. I think you want to just draft talent wholesale. I do like the idea. I do like the idea of going quarterbacks. I do think you'll be at least okay with Jared Goff. Like, I don't think you're going to be the worst team in the NFL. Like, that's going to be the Texans. So you will have to, I do think, move up next year if you do want to get in on this quarterback class. So, and these guys don't come out every year. 4 guys like that don't come out every year. So if one is on the board, I don't think one's going to be on the board at 7, though, is the other thing. I think you're going to have to make a little move to go get one. I would probably lean that Lance is more likely at this point.
Fair. All right, jumping to Colin Backer. Do you think Big Dave, DJ Uwangalele, will be the greatest prospect of all time, or one of the greatest prospects of all time. Rocket arm, athleticism, poise, solid reads for a freshman, if not the best ever. How does he compare to Trevor Lawrence?
So, to clarify, Big Dave is DJ's father.
Yeah, DJ's father is going to be a soon friend of the pod.
Yes.
We're also going to tailgate with him at Clemson, and I'm telling you right now, we're going to develop a very long-term bond.
Yeah, we're going to be his agent someday.
He's going to call me his son.
Yeah.
We get that on the pod. If I get that fucking clip on the pod, I can retire.
He's going to introduce me to Rihanna.
We could. Definitely could.
We need that.
Quinn, does your girlfriend listen to this pod? Ease up, kid.
No.
Ease up. Go ahead. What's your thoughts on DJ Wungale?
I don't think he's going to be the best ever, but he does have a fucking cannon. That guy
sick.
can sling it.
I talked to two Clemson wide receivers, I think, and the first thing they brought, I bring up DJ Wungale a little bit, and they're like, he's going to throw a lot of go balls. I mean, this guy is going to throw deep a lot. He's got a monster hose.
He really does. I mean, it could be Jamarcus Russell level by the time he leaves campus there. I'll just say that he's not the athlete, though, that even Trevor Lawrence is. Like, I don't think he has that level of speed. I don't think he's going to be that big of a runner in your offense. So, best prospect of all time. I still think Trevor Lawrence, what he did as true freshman, like how solid you feel about his game translating, is at least the best in the modern era.
I don't know what his Heisman odds
I didn't
are.
watch John Elway sling it back at Stanford or whoever you Peyton Manning at Tennessee. I was not old enough to see either of those with any sort of intelligent vision, but that's the best in the modern era. So I don't think he will, but hey, shit can happen.
I don't know what his Heisman odds are, but I kind of like it. I think he could have a pretty stellar 2021 college football season. All right, this is from Dylan J. Barker. Who's your dream NFL duo to face off against in a best-of-7 Beard Eye series, past or present? You have an answer, and then I'm going to go for one.
So this is tough. I have two different teams here. One's one that I think would be experienced Beard Eye players, and that would be Kyle Orton and Johnny Manziel. I think they got after it. I think they've played a bit. I don't know if Purdue's a big Beard Eye school, but Kyle Orton at least learned it at some point with how much he drinks. Johnny Manziel, same shit about Texas A&M. I don't know. Do you guys play down there? We got that at Texas A&M. Guy asked a question. Let us know. But I think just in terms of pure Beard Eye talent, I think Joe Burrow and Tom Brady probably could run some shit. I think they got the hand-eye coordination.
Tom Brady's probably trash at Beard Eye.
You don't need athleticism. You just need.
Yeah. Did you see him chug that beer? I think it was on Kimmel or something.
And I saw a picture of him literally playing Beard Eye once.
Really?
Also. Yeah, there was one out there.
Yeah. Brady can slug him.
Yeah. So
I'm
I would throw Drew Brees in there in terms of most accurate quarterbacks of all time, but thinking about Drew Brees drinking a beer just seems wrong.
My team is so much better. My team, this matchup is so much better. I want to physically dominate two of the biggest alphas in the NFL and talk shit to them in a game I could potentially win against them. I'm going Aaron Donald and DK Metcalf. And when they lose, I hope they're not fucking good. And I'm going to just be I'll beat them 11-0 and laugh in their face. And it's I just did that to Aaron Donald and DK Metcalf. That's my move.
Honorable mention, Bryant McKinney. That dude's a partier.
Oh, man.
That dude was a big-time partier.
Dude, can you imagine seeing a die in Bryant McKinney's hand? Dude, that guy's got... I think big hands matter.
He just could dunk it on you every time.
Oh, man. That would be fun. We got to make these happen. Maybe DJ will play with us. Who knows? All right. Oh, I saw this recently on the Wungale stuff. Apparently has a younger brother, freshman. Got offer from Ohio State, played defensive end.
Yeah.
That could be pretty big hoss.
Enormous. There was another quick question.
Another question from Dylan J. Barker that's not Beard Eye related. Is there a coach who is more consistently carried by his quarterback than Pete and Russ? I'm sure there are some I'm forgetting, but he has to be up there. Hypothetically, if the Seahawks were to trade Russ, what kind of haul could they expect in return?
Yeah, I do think some of Pete Carroll's genius is not just schematic. I think he holds together locker rooms well and is the cult of personality is a real thing. He had a lot of guys that were now problem childs elsewhere, and Michael Bennett and Earl Thomas and whatever, that they all came together and they won a lot of football games. So I do think there's some of that that's still a big aspect of head coach in the NFL. But yeah, I do think he's been carrying them for at least the past 3 or 4 years. That was kind of like Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers there for a period of time. It was probably the closest modern corollary I could think of.
Do you have a take on the haul they could get for Russell Wilson?
Oh, and then haul they get for Russell Wilson. So the offer was 3 firsts, a third, and 2 starters, apparently, which that's in the ballpark of what I would accept. Now, the thing is, the 3 firsts are not going to be high first is the problem at that point. And that was from the Bears. So that would have been pick 20 is the highest one. You're just not getting a quarterback at that point. But that is a lot to rebuild a roster, especially if you're getting 2 stars on top of that I would have thought about that as a Seahawks team. If I really do think Russ is not going to play for me, I would have accepted that offer, I will say. Now, it remains to be seen who else is going to be players. But like if Russ is saying, I only want to go to these teams, this is all I'm going to do. Well, shit, he's got your nuts in your hand at that point.
Man, you've been finishing some of these answers with just ridiculous, just ridiculous dropping of not great words. All right, this is from Loop-de-Loop 00977. If the Texans refuse to trade Deshaun Watson, what is the best way for him to cause maximum damage to the franchise? This guy woke up to his violence. Yeah. Okay, this guy's coming for blood. While sitting out the entire season would hurt them, would it be better served to play the first few games, get them to 4 or 5 wins, and then sit out the season when they have enough wins to keep them from getting a top quarterback? Oh my God, this guy wants blood.
Sabotage would be interesting. I think Deshaun Watson a little too much pride for it.
Also, probably a better person than that. Sabotage would be ridiculous.
My idea: secretly tape a conversation with Jack Easterby and ask his thoughts on gay marriage.
That is an interesting
or trans rights, something along that line where you probably know what the answer is going to be.
It's not going to be good,
and it would not be good for PR.
Man, all right. Moving to Chris Gorman 10. As a cheesehead, probably and also owner of the team, stakeholder, whatever you say all the time, I liked what I saw from Chris Barnes and Kamal Martin last year. Jeez, this is a cheesehead. Is this Aaron Nagler? but still see off-ball linebacker as a weakness for this roster. Which prospects fit best with the scheme that new DC Joe Barry is bringing in, and which free agents could you see them going after they create some sort of cap space?
Ooh, free agents, I don't think they're going to go after each. The one I keep saying is Will Fuller. Just give me Will Fuller. I'll be happy. Give me my Notre Dame guy, and we can run it back. But I think a long athlete at the linebacker position is interesting, given obviously what that scheme asked them to do. They're going to have to come forward and make plays in space. It's a lot of what you're doing at the linebacker position in that offense. Now, Martin and Barnes aren't terrible at it. I don't think it's a pressing need in that scheme. They can get by with those two guys. You saw the Rams get by with objectively some of the worst linebackers in the NFL and still have the league's number 1 defense. So it's possible. But if you're looking at day 2, and the guy we talked about earlier, Jamin Davis, Jabril Cox, there's similar molds of linebackers. I like Cox better, because he's just more polished in coverage, I'll say, at this point. I think he'd be an interesting guy to add to the fold. But both those guys, if that's where you're going, that's where I would go. Those guys who I think could actually be upgrades over Chris Barnes, Kamal Martin. If you're going lower down in the draft, I wouldn't even think about it, or I wouldn't even address it at that point, because I don't think you're necessarily going to do a much better job than Barnes and Martin could do.
All right, this is from chocolate_bar. You guys are awesome. I've been paying a lot of attention to your podcast because of my Dynasty Fantasy Football League. He lists out what his league is, settings. The interviews have been super helpful. I left extremely impressed by Rondale. Same. I'm picking 4th in this year's rookie draft, and I'm currently stuck between Devontae Smith, Javonte Williams, and Kyle Pitts. I need help at every position, but I'm thinking I might reach for Pitts since tight ends is a 0.5 bonus. So much scarcity at tight end makes me think he could be the most valuable chess piece in the draft. I'm curious to get your thoughts on who I should pick. Obviously, so much depends on landing spot, and a lot can change after the combine and free agency. But at this point, assuming Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and Jamar Chase are gone, who would you pick at 4?
Pitts, because one, there's the scarcity of the tight end position. You got
plus the 0.5 bonus.
And the 0.5 bonus. But you got 3 guys. There's that big difference between the top tier and then any other guy after that. And then 2, it's because tight ends very much like running back, in that when you draft them highly, you do it because you're going to utilize them in your offense. If you're drafting running back the first round, you're going to give them 300 carries. If you draft a tight end early, you're going to justify it by pumping him targets or putting him in a position to succeed.
Yeah.
So he'll get his numbers wherever he goes, because whoever does draft him in the top 10 is going to have a plan to utilize him.
I will say this, for fantasy leagues, I don't love the idea of giving a 0.5 bonus to tight end, because it is one of those positions after the big 3 or the big 4.
I honestly don't know what that means.
Okay, so all the positions in fantasy that can catch footballs, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, they all have equal points. When they get a reception, it's all the same points. Some leagues will give an extra 0.5 or an extra point bonus for a tight end reception because they're so rare. But I do think that because of the unpredictability of the tight end position, you can come out with your top 25 tight end rankings for fantasy right now, and I guarantee you won't even come close, because very few targets for most tight ends in the NFL. Like outside of Travis Kelce and George Kittle, there's a lot of unpredictability there, and then you factor in injuries. I don't think boosting tight ends because of the luck that comes with like kind of projecting tight ends. We were really just looking for a guy to score a touchdown. Makes a ton of sense. That's my fantasy take. Roast me in the comments. All right, this is from Al Burrito 97. Can't find a good burrito in Cincinnati. I'll tell you that. While we love
Not true.
Quinn, I don't have time for this.
Where's the best burrito?
Best burrito in Cincinnati? Chipotle?
I like habaneros.
I haven't
in
been
Clifton.
to habaneros.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should go.
All right. While we all love first-round quarterbacks, which quarterbacks do you think will make a Dak Prescott, Derek Carr type difference on day 2 or 3? That would be sick if we knew that answer. I like that.
Yeah.
But go ahead and start there.
I still think Kyle Trask. I think he could. There's something to the leap he took, and like a lot of the things he does at the quarterback position in terms of like being able to manipulate pockets, being able to give his guys chances. I think that was part of his genius and part of the Florida genius this year, and like why Kyle Pitts' numbers were so good is because he knew that he had a guy that he could throw to even when covered, and he was throwing him open to a degree just as much as Kyle Pitts was coming down with these spectacular catches. That's something you're going to have to do at the NFL level. Now, doesn't have the biggest arm, is not nearly as accurate as the top guys in this class, like the Mac Jones, the Justin Fields, whatever. That's why he's not considered in that tier. But I do think that, like I said, some of the things he does in that regard are going to project well. And like Kellen Mond, I don't see him doing that nearly as much. Now, he didn't have as much talent, maybe, and that's part of it. Like when you have talent, you can trust, you can do things like that. But I think I've already seen that from Kyle Trask. So I'm just intrigued by him. Like I said, they're all interesting. He's the most interesting to me of the day 2 guys.
He had a second question. This is from Burrito97. Also a longtime Colts fan. Do you think they should prioritize receiver with the catch radius with their first-round pick? He said he's team Bateman, or maybe fill the hole at tackle. I'm leaning tackle over receiver for the Colts.
Yeah, it's going to shake out with free agency. They're still going to make moves for free agency. Don't
They have a lot of money left.
Don't fret, Colts fans. Yeah, that is.
Maybe they're making a move for Galladay.
They are the second wave kings in free agency, just like they're the second round kings in the draft. They don't care about the blue chippers as much as they care about having a top to bottom solid roster. And so they will at some point go out and sign someone, and it would not surprise me at all if they signed a tackle. So
aren't you also a second round king? I think you said something similar to that matter. No?
What would I be, a second round king?
Never mind. All right, going to Alex and Lily. Austin, do I need to worry about my car? Absolutely. I live 5 to 10 minutes from Antigua. Oh, wow. Yeah, you do need to worry about your car. And I go through all their time. It's a Chevy Equinox. It's okay. She can get into it. I'll tell you that right now. My question, who will be the quarterback for Washington next year? I'm in a super flex league and always looking for a quarterback stash. I apologize for the delay on this answer.
But it's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, it's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick.
And so I think at one point I was saying, it's hard to identify which teams like should go for the quarterback on day 2 because we're like, don't draft day 2 QBs. The hit rate's so low. I actually think the Washington football team should go quarterback on day 2 in this year's draft. I do.
Okay.
There you go.
And you're going to go,
that's the team I identified.
Trask or Mond?
Yeah, Trask is the most interesting.
All right. This is from TYTY42069. My question is about the Vikings. What do you think the Vikings' best option is at 14? Should they trade down and hopefully gain a second-round pick or stay put? If they do, what are some of the top options? Oh, if they do stay put, what are some of the top options? I'm a sophomore in high school, and my first game I had to play man coverage against Trey Lance's younger brother, and that kid is special. That's what I want on the pod. Nice. I want that guy. I want this guy on the pod.
Younger brother?
I want Trey Lance's younger brother or the guy that had to guard him on the pod. I'm sorry. I need fun interviews for summer.
All right. That doesn't sound that fun. I'll just say that.
Shut up.
Edge 1, they're in a position where they could draft their top edge guy. And obviously a need for them. And might even be more of a need with Daniil Hunter on Hat B with how his contract has gone. So I think that's their best option. Is like identify the guy you like there and then just roll with it. Because I do think like we have Kwity Paye as top guy being worthy of the 14th overall pick. I'm coming on board to the idea that Azeez Ojulari would be worthy of the 14th overall pick too. There you go.
All right. From Mike Renner Stan. If the
last question here.
Last question. I want a couple more. I want to push for a few more.
That's the last question I prepped.
Oh, that's the last question you prepped? All right.
I didn't know we'd get through that many. I prepped a bunch.
We're out here cruising. I'm going to scroll down. I might find another one we can get on the fly. This is from Mike Rennerstan. If the top 3 receivers and Kyle Pitts are off the board in the top 10, Kwity Paye would be a possible selection for the Giants at 11. How would you evaluate the fit in that defense? He seems like more of your traditional 4-3 defensive end, whereas the Giants predominantly like to run a 3-4, often dropping their outside linebackers into coverage.
Yeah, so he definitely is more of a 4-3 defensive end. That was the role he played in Michigan. Now, I'm not putting it past him. He's an athletic freak of nature, but I just think it would be not playing to his strengths. Whereas a guy like Joseph Asai, who I think you get in the second round, Texas edge guy, that's a natural fit. That's what he does. That's the role you want him in. So that's who I would be targeting, and I think the Giants may very well target on day 2.
All right, I have 2 more for you that don't need any prep.
All right.
First one is, I was curious how you guys feel about teams trying to use later rounds to stockpile high upside skill players, like lottery tickets, right? For instance, Eskridge, Grimes, McKitty could all potentially be found in round 6 and 7.
You just go back and look through some old drafts at the hit rates on the 6th and 7th round. I do not like that idea. I think the draft gets to about 120, 125 players, and you're cooked. You really are scraping the bottom of the barrel if guys can contribute. And a lot of times in the 6th and 7th round, NFL teams themselves are purely identifying guys that they know can play on special teams. They have no hopes of that guy ever being a starter for them. They just know that if they put this guy on special teams, he will not be a liability. That's what teams are looking for in the 6th and 7th round. They are not. Sometimes you'll draft these upside freak athletes, whatever, but more often than not, all they're looking for is a guy who can contribute on special teams at that point in the draft, because the talent does fall off a cliff at that point.
Plus, I think there's 2 ways. It's like, hey, okay, I'm going to bet on this lottery ticket. Hopefully he pans out. He probably won't, looking at data. But also, what a lot of teams do, I've heard Nagy talk about this, you look for special teamers. Like, you need to flesh out your roster with depth players that can actually go on the football field.
Didn't I just say that?
You did. You did just say that. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. I was looking for more questions. All right, this is the last one. If you were a betting man, would you take the over or under 2.5? How many times Austin name drops the interviews? In what, though? I don't know where I name drop him. 2.5 times. At the bar in Cincinnati? Not a lot. I keep that between myself. In the podcast, I do bring up the interviews a decent amount.
Yeah, I'm not sure the how many name drops people. Do you bring up other people's names in interviews a lot that you've interviewed?
I do actually. No, okay, I do that sometimes, but only if like they're like former teammates and stuff. Like, hey, I was talking to this guy who also you played with. What do you think of that?
It's a way of establishing
I'm trying
rapport.
to build rapport, man. Come on, dude. I'm so sorry. All right. The reason I wanted to do those 2 questions is because we just broke 100. We only have 96 questions left to get back up to speed.
Which up to speed is March 8th.
Is it March 8th? I thought it was like March 15th.
Oh, maybe it is.
I don't know. I'll take a look, but fuck. We're going to get closer. We also need to plan the International Mailbag Day because there are so many from Brazil, Canada, the UK, Ireland. Like, we got to go out there and make an International Mailbag Day. It would have made sense for St. Patty's Day. Next week, we might do 5 podcasts next week.
We have to do a double next week.
We have to do a double, at least a double. Really appreciate everyone. Make sure you give feedback on who we should get guests in the summer. And so forth. Make sure you leave a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts with your question to get on the mailbag list. Until next time, or no, not until next time, let's go ahead and jump to these interviews. UCF guys, Tay Gowan and Richie Grant. Now joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is former UCF cornerback Tay Gowan and a PFF favorite. Tay, I have to say this, like, we are very high on your game. I talk to my podcast co-host all the time, Mike, about you, man. It's like, why don't anybody else are high on Tay Gowan? They're just sleeping on you, dude. It's great to have you on the show, though.
Thanks for having me, man.
So let's go ahead and, kind of address not necessarily the elephant in the room, but kind of the most pressing thing and talk about, what went into that decision to opt out of the 2020 season, not play for UCF this past year, and all that's gone through since that decision.
Yes, sir. So going into the 2020 season, I was ready. I was all in. COVID hit, unexpected. Like, nobody really knew what was going on. To me, I have a premature daughter who was born 2 months early at 2 pounds. And her health is more important than anything to me. Going to school, I was one of the first guys to come back to campus because I'm in the first group. I was a starter. So I came back. I was ready to work. I'm working. I get COVID around my daughter and around my girl. We leave campus. I go home. I give it to my mom. She ended up being hospitalized, and I give it to my family. So it really put me in a bad situation, or just a state of mind frame, like, dang, I'm really getting all these people sick, and something could happen. I don't know what COVID is. I don't know what's going on, and I just didn't want to put nobody life at harm anymore, and I just wanted to be safe. So I made a tough decision. I cried about my decision because I've been playing football since I was 5 years old. This is what I do. This is my life. And it really hurt me not to play and be out there with my teammates, but I ultimately made the decision just to protect my daughter. And I've been with her ever since that day, since I opted out.
And I don't think anyone should knock you for that, man. I mean, that had to have been a very, very difficult decision. And I think personally, I mean, you can let other people say what they want, that you made the right fucking decision, because that is it's too crazy, man. No one knew what COVID-19 was at the time. Obviously, having a premature daughter and putting her at risk, I think you made the right decision. And I respect you for it, man, because I know that wasn't easy. And especially with, all the, from a financial standpoint, all the money that's on the line as you're entering the draft and all that stuff, to make that decision and prioritize your family and prioritize your daughter, I applaud that effort, dude. You went through it, man. So definitely, I appreciate you sharing that story, man, and I appreciate you getting emotional, because it's tough, man. People who are on the outside looking at it simply as he didn't play last year, but it is so much deeper than that. There's so much more context to that. To try and get the conversation a little bit more on football and avoiding some of that stuff, I'd love to talk more about kind of that decision initially to transfer from the Miami, Ohio, or not Miami, Ohio, sorry, transfer. Because you originally went to Miami, Ohio, and then you transferred to Butler, and then went to UCF. So you've kind of had a very rocky, road to get to UCF. Talk to me through, those first 3 games at Miami, and then making that decision to go to Butler, and then obviously your 2019 season at UCF. How crazy was that? Different coaches, different teammates, obviously had to have affected your development and all those things. How insane has your college career been, even before opting out of the 2020 season?
Right. My college career has been, I would call it a rocky road. But I thank God for every step of the way and all the trials and tribulations I've been through. So me committing to Miami, Ohio was based on them being my first school to offer me. So I'm big on loyalty. So I really shut my recruitment down. I think I could have had like 10 to 15 plus offers out of high school, but I really shut my recruitment down. I stuck with Miami, Ohio because they believed in me. So when I got there, I had surgery on my right shoulder, so I didn't really. That was a real reason I wasn't supposed to redshirt or anything. I was supposed to come in and play right away. I ended up fixing my shoulder for almost 2 years because I had to get my shoulder right. So it's stronger than ever now. So me staying there 2 years, I was like, you know what? I want to bet on myself. All my life I've been betting on myself. So I was like, I'm gonna bet on myself. I could stay here and play and finish my years. But no, you know what? I want to take my talents to another level and see what I can do. I want to bet on myself. I want to go play football and just try to get these offers again and see what can happen. So that's the ultimate decision. I decided to go to Butler, one of the hardest JUCOs to play at, toughest conference. I wasn't going to no soft JUCO. I was going to the hardest of the hardest, in my opinion. I went to Butler, sold out. I ended up with 6 picks. If anybody go look at my JUCO tape, it's phenomenal. I should have had big SEC offers, but it is what it is. God is in control ultimately. I committed to UCF. They believed in me. I took one visit, and that's all I had to take. I love the family. They based on family, and I was all locked in. And it's closer to Georgia, so I didn't really want to be far away from Georgia again. My mom, so she can make my games and stuff. So that was my ultimate decision. I wanted to stay home, and UCF believed in me once again, and I believe in them, and I know they were coming off a phenomenal year, so I want to go to a winning team and show that I can ball.
It sounds like you obviously have a really strong relationship with your family and your daughter. Would you say like that's the primary motivation of you kind of continuing to push through and go through all the sacrifice that you have for football? I talk to a lot of prospects, and something I always ask them is what their motivation is and what their why is to play this game at such a high level and pursue the NFL. Would you say family is driving that for you?
Yes, sir. I'm a family man. I have a small family. I added my daughter to my family. I'm a real small family man, and that's what I've been based on. If anybody looked into my story, we've been homeless. Me and my family been homeless since 6th grade, and it's been real hard. Like my whole life been real hard. So I'm a fighter. Any team want to know I'm a fighter, man. I'm not no person that just don't want to play football. I'm a fighter. I fight through everything. I always had a 3.5. Never let anything circumstance hurt my situation. And yeah, I'm still fighting to this day, even what's going on. So yeah, my daughter's my heart. That's my soul right there.
Going back to your 2019 season, graded really well for PFF and really stood out in your first, kind of first full season with an FBS program. And I think Walk me through some of the preparation, what you went through in a given game week, how you prepared for an opponent. What did you look for with a receiver on film? What were you working on in practice in the game leading up to that? I would love to know kind of what a given game week looks like for you in terms of preparation.
Okay, going through a game week, Monday is a big film day. Coach Martinez put the top receivers on the board so I can visualize their face, height, weight. We go through releases. We practice releases on the field. I visualize the releases they do and the top routes they do going through that whole week. We do a lot of reps at practice to identify like what kind of situations they're gonna do, like whether it's third and long, second and short, or whatever. And mostly I review the most targets the most routes, their favorite routes they like to run. So that helped my game out a lot because I'm already knowing what type of route what type of player you're gonna run. So I'm gonna beat you to your route, and I'm real fast, so you're not gonna get away from me.
Yeah, something that PFF really loves about your game. I think it's obviously size, length, but you have like legitimate speed. Like you are a legitimate, like one of the faster corners in this class. Do you feel like that is what separates you among the other cornerbacks? Obviously, PFF is like scouting you in some ways and sees that as your strength. But I'd love to hear what you think your strengths are in this class.
Yes, sir. I think speed is one of my biggest strengths, and being able to have real good ball skills. I think that's one of my other biggest traits. And I can move at my size. Like, I'm not no stiff player. If anybody go watch me, I'm not a stiff player. I can move at my size, and it's really exciting to watch me play. And I think that's why like more teams are kind of sleeping on me because they want to see more of me. But I have a lot to give, and I want to show that.
What positions did you play in high school? Did you play more than just cornerback?
I played a little nickel. I can play a little nickel too. You can put me anywhere in the secondary actually. But yeah, I think corner's my spot though, because I can shut down that whole side of the field. I promise you.
You played with a lot of talented cornerback prospects too at UCF. Talk to me about that experience. A lot of dogs playing for the UCF Knights in the secondary.
If anybody go back to that 2019 tape, I played with some of the best secondary that I ever played with. Richie Grant, A-Rod, Antoine Collins, Lavelle Clark. We're a real brotherhood, and that's one of the strongest units I played with. So it wasn't no option. It wasn't no option for me not to give my best because I know these guys are gonna give their best. And they pushed me like guys like Richie Grant. He's one of the leaders on the team. Make sure I was in the film. Make sure I was doing the right things, and I'm very appreciative of him and A-Rob too, but more Richie Grant for me.
And watching, since in the offseason and probably watching tape on yourself or NFL guys, what have you been looking for on tape since kind of moving on from football and moving on from UCF? Really, what are you watching on tape? Are you watching tape of yourself, tape of NFL guys? What has your film study been of late?
My film study lately has been me, what I can improve on. Obviously, I've been watching some NFL receivers. But I don't know where I'm getting drafted, or I just leave that as God. So I don't want to watch too many receivers that I'm not going to play against. So I watch some of the top guys like Hopkins, Julio, because I know that'll be a big matchup for me, and I want to hold my own. But yeah, more like what can I fix going into my rookie year so I can improve my game and make it stronger.
And so I know you're in Fort Lauderdale. Are you out there training for your upcoming pro day?
Yes, sir. April 1st.
Nice, man. And what I know you're probably working on every single drill. You obviously want to have success in all those drills. Are there any specific drills, though, that you're kind of putting two circles around in your notes saying you really got to hit on these drills or any of those things?
I think for me it's going to be the 40. Even though I'm a fast guy, I really want to show like I can run for real. So it's the 40 for me.
And what weight did you play at that 2019 season? And are you working to a certain weight now as you kind of prepare for the pro day?
I played at 185. I want to weigh in at 188, 189. I talked to some teams. They don't want me that heavy because they want to see me run and stuff. But I'm gonna weigh 180, 188, 189. I'll probably touch 190, but I'm gonna see how I feel running with that.
I'm sure you've watched some tape too on some NFL corners. Are there any guys in the NFL right now that you pattern your game off of?
I love Ramsey. That's my guy. Like I want to add some of his tools to my game, like the way he come up and tackle and. Like, I love his game.
Yeah,
That's my dog.
Ramsey too is a trash talker, man. I'd love to know because I think for cornerbacks, receivers, I think it's it's an interesting part of the game where you kind of get into the mental side. Are you much of a talker on the football field, or you kind of let your play kind of stand up for itself?
Yeah, I don't talk. That's some of the guys like, why you have to say that? I don't got nothing to say. I'm gonna just show you.
Sometimes there's nothing to
I
say.
got nothing to say to you.
Well, that's all I had for you, man. I really appreciate you setting aside the time and really opening up about why you opted out of this season. I think it's an undertold story and a big reason why people are sleeping on you right now. But I wish you the best of luck moving forward, and I wish you the best of luck at your pro day.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking your time out to interview me, man. It's a blessing, man. Thank you.
Of course, man. Absolutely. Now joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is former UCF safety defensive back Richie Grant, also standout at the Senior Bowl, man. I don't think no one was being talked about more than you at Senior. Maybe that Wisconsin Whitewater offensive lineman Quinn Miners, but you had quite the Senior Bowl, man. That's when really a lot of people started to take to your game. How have you been, man?
I've been real good, man. It's definitely been real good since that Senior Bowl.
Yeah, you're out there in Pensacola. You just showed me the view. I'm definitely upset about it. Cincinnati, there's no beaches in Cincinnati. We've come to that conclusion. But I'd love to hear about the work that you're doing in Pensacola and working at Exos, how that preparation has gone for you so far.
It's been good. I've been out here with a lot of talented players. A lot of us actually went to the Senior Bowl together. So just getting to know those guys before we went to the Senior Bowl was good. But they out here pushing me, man, to get better. And the staff out here, they're doing a real good job. Not just on the working outside, but the recovery side as well. So we're getting it all the way around here.
So who you been working out with the most down there?
So skills group guys like Nico Collins, Tutu Atwell, Jalen Waddle, Hamza Nazardine, DJ Daniel, Amir Marset, Smith. It's a lot of skill guys down here, and then it's 3 groups. So it's even more guys, that big names you heard of and stuff like that. But we all pushing each other, getting better.
Obviously down there training kind of for every drill they're going to throw at you at your pro day. But are there any drills specifically that you're really prioritizing in your preparation, ones that you feel like you need to set high goals for and really, blow them out the water when your pro day does come up?
Personally, it's gonna be about speed. It's gonna be about speed.
It's always about speed, man. It's the NFL, unfortunately.
Personally, it's gonna be about speed. So I make sure I'm doing everything I need to do in that aspect of it.
Let's talk more about your Senior Bowl, because I think you showed a lot there in the one-on-one, specifically working against some tight ends, running backs. Also played some outside corner there when you had the opportunity to do so. Do you feel like you came out of the Senior Bowl based off the feedback you got from coaches, talking to scouts around the league? I heard there was some a 15-minute speed dating session with a ton of teams down there on Zoom. How did that whole week go for you, and what kind of major takeaways did you have coming out of the Senior Bowl?
Senior Bowl week, man, that's probably one of the most blessed weeks I've had in my career, man, because, the player that I am, being around the ball, turnovers, leader, all those qualities that, I have in myself, I got to put that on display against top-notch competition. So for me to go out there, compete the way I did, it definitely put my name back out there in the ring with a lot of guys. And, it was a tough week. We got coached really hard, a lot of meetings going on, guys tired. But that was on purpose. It was all about who gonna come out here, keep pushing each day, and I definitely one of those guys.
Was there any feedback specifically you got from whether it was the coaches there at the Senior Bowl or people you talked to on Zoom from NFL teams that you really took with you and want to improve on necessarily, or even positive feedback like, hey, we really like this about your game, and that's something that you kind of want to highlight or put an exclamation point behind?
Versatility, making sure I stay versatile, not just being locked in one position. My body type and the way I play the game can be used in a lot of different spots. So just make sure I stay versatile and not get locked in one thing.
That's where I really wanted the conversation to go to as well, because something that I see is a huge strength of yours in this class is your versatility, ability to play deep safety in the box, slot corner, even outside corner. You saw some of that at the Senior Bowl. And when you look at some of the best safeties in the NFL, you can't name the best safety in the NFL without naming versatility. And those are guys like Tyrann Mathieu, Jamal Adams, these guys that can do it all. How do you feel like you get or do you feel like that versatility is what separates you in this safety class? Or what do you feel like your key or notable strength is in this safety class?
Most definitely my versatility separates. To be honest, the way I've been coached at UCF these past 4 years, I didn't realize how big of a deal that was, being able to be in multiple spots. But coming out in this draft class, you see like some guys can't do that. You know, some guys ain't able to switch it and still be productive in each every spot. But I was able to do that in different spots, you know, and you look at the stats, man, I've been doing it all. So definitely got a high production rate while I was still being versatile. So I'm definitely getting a notch on that.
What do you think it takes to kind of be a very versatile safety? Because on the outside looking in, it's obviously athleticism. Like you can't be stiff. You have to have loose hips, change of direction, those things. But also, I'm sure a lot of that is like preparation and football IQ. Like you can't play multiple positions on defense without really understanding schematic principles and those types of things. What do you think is most important to being a versatile safety, and like what all goes into being able to play so many different positions so well?
No playbook, no PT. Just put it like that. If you don't know that playbook, you ain't getting on that field. You're not gonna be able to play multiple spots. So me knowing the playbook like the back of my hand, like my right hand, I was just wherever I was plugged in at, I know what to do. I don't need too much communication. I know splits, I know formations, just my IQ for the game. So just being in different spots, knowing what to do, that's the most important part. Like if you know what to do, that's half the battle right there. And then like you hit on, having the fluid hips, being able to, have a little speed and transition and stuff like that.
No playbook, no PT. I freaking love that. I'd love to hear more about kind of what went into a given game week for you from a preparation perspective. When you are turning on the film, what are you looking for from an opposing offense or opposing receivers or whatever it may be? What are you looking for on film as you kind of prepare for an upcoming opponent?
What I learned through my two staffs, kind of meshed them together so I can get the most out of it. But so a typical week would be like if we played on Saturday, I watch that entire game no matter what time it is. Sunday come back, Sunday we go in, get our grades. So I look at all the film again, looking at all the negative things that I might have did, something I could have improved on. Monday we get our game plan. So I go in there, I watch a game or two of the opponent, see what it looks like, see how the game plan to stack up against it. Tuesday we go in, that's first and second down day. All first, second down. Wednesday is all third down day, maybe a little red zone. Thursday is all red zone day, but that's the day where I look for little things. I learned from this last coaching staff, Coach Martinez, Coach Shannon, Coach Bill, those guys. Finding little tricks and not just like a receiver coming out. Like if a receiver's in a boundary, he's never in a boundary. Or if a tackle has his foot spread out wide, his pass. Those little things right there help you play faster. So that's stuff I look for. And then on Friday, I just hang out in the hotel with my guys. And Saturday, you play again.
I definitely don't think people bring up enough, knowing your role, knowing the playbook, no playbook, no PT, but also knowing, opponent splits and opponent tendencies helps you play faster because you're not thinking on the football field. And when you're reacting on the football field, a 4-5 guy becomes a 4-4 guy because he's able to kind of move quickly in those things. I think that's very interesting. How has that film preparation changed in the offseason? Are you watching more film on yourself, kind of critiquing yourself, or watching a ton of film on NFL guys, looking at guys who are already doing it at a high level in the NFL to kind of pattern your game after?
So I didn't too much watch a lot on myself, because I've been focusing more on the training side. But I definitely, coming out of the season, finding little things I can get better at, because, the next level is going to be more challenging. Guys, it's going to be more demanding out there on you. So making sure all your weaknesses, are the par, you're able to compete out there. So I ain't spent too much time on that, but I definitely know things that can get better and stuff like that. I love watching NFL. I love watching DB, you name some of them, Eddie Jackson, Minka, Kevin Byard, Malcolm Jenkins. Like, I love watching guys like that. I kind of imitate myself, or that's who I think I play as. So watching guys like that, trying to get little tips from them.
Another UCF defensive back that had a really good Senior Bowl week was Aaron Robinson, who I think the first thing that came out of everyone's mouths or everyone's tweets was just how physical the guy was, because he's not like a bigger cornerback prospect, but just shows up at the line of scrimmage every single play looking for a dogfight. And I think you saw that from Aaron Robinson. Is he that same guy off the field? Is he that same guy in the huddle? Because I feel like that physicality, that tone-setting presence is really what stands out with Aaron Robinson.
Man, off the field, A-Rod one of the most chill dudes. Man, that's my brother, man. Like, ever since he got to UCF, he transferred from Bama. Been my brother, man, since day one. Like, off the field, though, he really so chill, man. Like, just vibing, just doing what he want, whatever. On the field, though, it's an animal out there. He just let it loose, I guess, Like, he playing fast. He competing every snap. Like, he been slot corner for 2 years in a row. He been dominating for 2 years in a row. like everybody got his respect, and he definitely got his respect from me.
Another, former transfer and a guy you played with in 2019 that opted out of 2020 due to COVID-19 concerns was Tay Gowan. And he was a guy that I talked to recently that honestly came away really, really impressed with what, why he opted out. Like his background, his story, all that stuff is really, really incredible in terms of like the sacrifice he's gone through to get to where he is now. I'd love to hear more about that season you played with Tay Gowan and the type of player he is.
Tay was exactly what we needed. I mean, perfect timing. I mean, Brendan Moore was a starting guy. He went down first game, and Tay Gowan got in there and then missed a beat. Exactly what we needed from him. He did and more. He was a playmaker. He had a low completion percentage. Just all the things that we needed at that time. Like he did that and more. Like out the field, like my brother, man. Just that whole secondary, they all my brothers. But this guy, he been through a lot. And I was there for him. Kind of being a big brother to him. So I got to hear a lot of things he went through, and just trying to keep his head focused, because just let him know, like, use his story, man. Like this is your testimony. So use this and the gifts that God gave you, and go out here and ball. A lot of people looking up to you. They see where you came from, and just let that be your testimony, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of reason to be motivated. I talked to a lot of prospects and asked them, what's their motivation, what's their why to kind of make the sacrifices they do to play this game and pursue the NFL. And dude's got a lot of why, man. He's got a lot of motivation. He's got a family that's really rooting for him and all those things. I'd love to hear your answer to that question, though, Richie, and we can close with this one. What is your motivation to kind of, go through this training in Pensacola, continue to try and, pursue an NFL career, make the sacrifices you need to make to play this game at a high level?
First and foremost, my family. I know you probably hear from a lot of guys, but man, I was raised by a lot of women. There wasn't too many men around, and they got the job done. Like, the way I carry myself, how I compete out there on the field, just never giving up, competing every play. I learned that from the women in my life. They don't take excuses. Like, they're gonna give you everything they got, and then some. So definitely my family. I'm trying to pay them back. For all the sacrifice they made for me. 3 jobs, not being able to be at home all the time with me, missing games, stuff like that. I'll be able to pay that forward. And then the second part, man, I think growing up, I was that kid that got told I could do it. I was a kid, like everybody believed in, like, you going to make it, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And I feel like it was too many kids that didn't get to hear that. So me being able to be that light for kids like that, because all it takes is to see somebody do it and know that you got the ability to do it too. So just being that light, letting these little kids know, like, bro, anybody can do it. You can do it. Just pick up the pen, pick up the cleats, whatever is your calling, pick it up and just do it. And then whatever is in your way, get past it.
That's fantastic, man. This has been great. I really appreciate you setting aside the time, and best of luck moving forward in the NFL.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
That's officially going to do it for this episode of 2 for 1 Drafts. Make sure you leave a 5-star review, Apple Podcasts, all of that good stuff. Until next time, producer Mike Quinn, producer Dave, Austin Gale, Mike Renner, 2 for 1 Drafts.